What is the worst thing that you've seen a coworker do and still avoid being fired? A guy at the plant I work at scrapped $360,000 in airplane parts because he didn't even bother to look at the work instructions. He just drives a forklift now. When you realize $360,000 in airplane parts is like one sub-assembly, one particular type of screw on my old jet was about $10,000 for one single screw. Still a bunch of marked tools. They were painted white. Showed everyone in the shop pictures of his deer with set tools in the background. Gets reported. Boss calls him on it. He said, "You got me. I stole a gallon of white paint." Never heard the boss laughing so hard year later, or so he gets promoted lol. Damn, that's some quick thinking. Was thinking the same thing. Best outcome possible. He tried to run over a security officer with his car when the security officer told him he couldn't park where he wanted to park. Almost succeeded. 2. He wasn't fired. Was he at least sat down for a stern talking to? He was not fired. He did have to meet with ours, so I'm assuming he has a note in his file, but no further action was taken. To my knowledge, he never even apologized. Worked with a guy who punctured the main gas line to our shop 3 separate times. It was a construction company and he somehow was still my superintendent, although he could have blown up the shop. My dad's foreman once put gasoline in something that needed water and ruined an entire asphalt driveway. He's old and forgetful and only works to get away from his wife. I knew an elder gentleman who accidentally primed a well pump with the 5-gallon jug of kerosene rather than water. After that incident, the tap water was no longer allowed to be used for anything food related. Accidentally send the last 3 years of account details / back statements from one company to their direct competitor. I came close to this within my first few months out of college, working as a design engineer. Copy and pasted what I then realized was a confidential, proprietary design that we created for a competitor of the client. My boss admitted blame. He signed off and certified it without realizing I had copied it from a proprietary job until I told him that was my reference material after the job was issued. We have a big database of industry standard reference material we use, but he also said I could use previous jobs as reference designs. However, I was unaware at the time that some of our corporate designs were proprietary. We agreed that at the level of experience I was at and the training I was given, I wasn't fully expected to know that at that stage. Needless to say, I've not done it again. That is how it is supposed to work. People make mistakes. Different from the casual bastardry that is a lot of these replies. When companies don't do what yours did, employees just get better at hiding and blame shifting mistakes. Worst coworker ever was the credit mooch. He would constantly horn in on other people's projects, getting his name added to them to make it look like he was doing shit when he actually not. If people tried to assign him any work on said project, he would have a personal emergency or a virus would make him lose all his work, or his schedule is booked with other project, or the worst, he would pull some sucker in to help him with it, and said sucker would end up doing it all in utter frustration. Because he was so good at stealing credit, he managed to get top marks on his reviews despite doing absolutely zero actual work for the company. I know at least 4 people quit due to this guy getting better raises than they did. Far as I know, they never actually got rid of him. That's middle management material right there. No. That's a straight shooter with upper management written all over him. Had a coworker as a standard business practice falsely condemn furnaces in winter to pressure home ERWers into buying new systems and pad his commission check. I couldn't do anything as I had no direct proof, but he would joke about it all the time. It did finally catch up with him when one customer smelled BS and called other companies with advanced testing machines, took those results and sued the poop out of him. I ended up working for that second company and haven't looked back. If he's licensed, it should be revoked on those grounds. That's beyond immoral and makes honest tradespeople look bad. Problem is the salesman doesn't have to hold a license. The service techs have to. These guys are just used car salesmen selling different shit. This dude walks a server out of the server room every 6 months or so to sell on eBay. We have literally no security except the front door. But the owner is so ancient and out of touch I doubt she even remembers things are being stolen. We had a net guy that was stealing old laptops after we replaced them for employees with new ones. Funny thing was that we didn't give him a raise for 5 years since we knew about it. And apparently he didn't want to quit either out of fear of being discovered or due to the extra money he was making. His raise would have been worth more than the laptops, so we just let it continue. His raise would have been worth more than the laptops, so we just let it continue. No problem with the lack of character issues for an IT position. Seems like a big security risk. Got caught with CP on his work computer. Had access to the net taken away, but wasn't fired as it's possible he didn't know it was real CP. Edit. Just to clarify a few things. 1. This was about 15 years ago at a public institution in Canada. 2. CP is child PRN. 3. Upper management was terrible in so many ways. 4. I talked to a friend who was in the RCMP. She said to me reporting him would lead to the institution lawyering up and an internal investigation would happen. That's all because likely upper management erased the HD and left no paper trail. See #35. He used Kazaa, an ancient P2P. After already being disciplined and essentially demoted for doing his job terribly, my coworker drunk texted all of our managers in the middle of the night asking why they didn't love him. It's been about 2 weeks and I haven't seen him since, but has not gone. Not the worst thing he could have done, but I cringe thinking about it. Not the same thing, but I drunkenly sent a dick pic to my work group chat, and I'm still absolutely mortified till this day. Edit. Adding more info. Oh god, this is most attention I've got on Reddit, and it's about my dick. Lol. Yes, this is exactly what happened. It was on Snapchat. I was sending pics to another guy, for everyone asking, yes, they wanted me to send it. Not just sent out of the blue. Lol. We sent a few pics back and forth and someone wrote something into the work group chat, so I accidentally chose to send it there, and before I knew I had pressed send. I knew immediately the second I pressed it I was doomed. They started opening it immediately. I just typed in that I was so embarrassed, but they were all pretty cool about it and sent me private messages of support and vowed to never mention it in work. I still am so embarrassed though. Definitely most embarrassing moment of my life, and I'm clumsy by nature. Tip: if you leave a group chat on Snapchat, any snaps you've sent into can no longer be opened. Wish I knew that beforehand. I'm just glad it wasn't on Messenger or WhatsApp where the picture would still be shudder. Yeah, that's worse. Guy at my wife's old job was brought in because he was really good at selling the services they provided. Proceeded to send dick pics to the women at work and solicit nudes from them. Women said to stop or they'd take it up with management, and it subsided some. Solicited nudes from a new chick who asked my wife about it, and my wife went to management with everything and said, this guy's out or I'm quitting. Well, she quit. Guy's still there, but most the original female staff has quit. Money talks. Dude's bringing in more money than the sexual harassment issues. Shit's dumb. But if it's not a huge company, then that's definitely why he's still there. Small companies will let insane shit slide. Money and poor management reasons alike. As an assistant manager at a Valvoline instant oil change, I was dealing with an unreasonable customer that had just spit at a female employee that he didn't want working on his car. He didn't know that the guy under his car was her boyfriend. The guy comes up the steps, grabs an oil gun, and starts pumping 10W30 all climate into the guy's window as he's frantically trying to start the car and roll up the window. The employee was reprimanded pretty hard, but it was understood why he did it. No charges were filed. The franchise owner paid a lot of money to have the guy's car cleaned. Obviously, I never saw him again. Edit: I never saw the customer again. If I remember correctly, the employee was suspended for a week. Edit #2. I'm very sorry that I misspoke. I was an assistant to the manager. Former Viark assistant manager also. This would have been 12 years ago now. Our gun locks never worked properly, so for the most part we always had to hold the trigger arm down to pump in the oil. No big deal. Probably better anyway. But the locks also prevent accidentally opening the valve when they would get caught on the gun rack. Facing the passenger side of a car. with a woman's brand new $4,000 bridal dress sitting uncovered in the front seat. It was a complete accident and thankfully the manager was there when it happened. I took the topside guy who was visibly upset, verge of tears, guilty feeling, out the back door, talked him down, told him to take a long on the clock lunch. The customer's fiance came up later that day to apologize for his future bride being rightfully pissed off at us. 2 days later the corporate maintenance guy for our chain was replacing and testing every single gun on the rack. We had to suspend the guy for not following procedures. Area manager had to do it because the chain managers forced him to, and he quit while on suspension. But it could have been literally anybody in the store that day. We were lucky enough to work for a franchise owner that spent money keeping the stores and equipment in good shape and up to date. I couldn't imagine how shitty that guy felt. Kudos to you for seeing that he needed to get out of there for a while. Most of the managers I worked with only cared about the labor percentage and ticket average. Oh man. It was winter time and she was helping a customer by carrying something they had purchased out for them. Once outside, but still on the store property, she slipped and sustained an injury, was threatening to sue the business, and was also trying to claim workers' compensation. Came into work every day with a sling on her arm and constantly wincing and being in pain. Anyway, Bowers and the store manager call her into a meeting, sit her down, and show her the video surveillance from outside, which she obviously didn't know was there, showing her faking her fall. I don't know everything, but she got called out hard and she broke down and admitted everything. For some reason they kept her on. She then tried it again like 6 months later, this time claiming that a customer had something from their cart hit her or fall on her or something. Again, tried to claim workers' comp and had this whole show of being injured. They pull up security footage again and disprove her injury/claims. She still wasn't fired. Blew my mind lol. I have no ducking clue why they keep people like this. If anything, they're a bigger risk to the company if they keep working there. Your bosses are morons. I know someone who managed to close an entire supermarket early for the first time in its history, costing the company several thousands of pounds because they tried to set a clock on a computer back an hour to avoid missing some deadline for a daily routine. He said it seemed such a good idea at the time. That's oddly impressive. How did setting the clock back lead to that? Not the op, but I assume their pose was a piece of shit from 2003 made up of the programming equivalent of gum and paper clips that fell apart when the time from one part of the program didn't match the time from another part. Nothing. Documenting workers completed when no actual work had been done. Management knew or was suspicious of it, but not so much as a write-up or reprimand. Eventually, management changed, figured out no work was being done, called it fraud, and canned them. The job was easy too, and good money. I don't get why they didn't just do the work. Job's even easier if you don't do it at all. This guy knows things. Full-on sexual harassment. Little backstory. I work in a private country club style dining/banquet event space. A drunk on the job manager pinned an hourly server against the wall during a nighttime wedding reception. She punched him in the ribs and tried pushing him off of her. We all saw it. We all reported to ours. Another manager physically removed him off of her. This was about 4 months ago and has still in his position. She quit due to him telling everyone she'd lied about the entire situation. This happened to me. Jerk harassed 2 other women, asked them out repeatedly, left men's magazines open on his desk to show them, touching inappropriately, etc. And they both filed complaints less than a year apart. Both were ignored, and they left the department and warned me not to go near him. Luckily I did not have to interact with him for years, and then he wound up my boss. I kept records of everything, dates, times, witnesses, all the way up until he pinned me against a door in full body contact. While on a work trip, I left the trip early not telling him and went from the return terminal at the airport to the HR department to file my complaint with months of proof, to lawyers, hours rep meetings and interviews, and 13 months later, he was finally fired. He appealed too. I found out a few years later he was arrested for touching a girl in his daughter's high school sophomore class. I'm so sorry. That's awful. I truly wish she would reported him. She's the nicest, sweetest, big-hearted person in existence. Has still doing this kind of shit too. That's the worst part. He didn't even get a slap on the wrist. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more daily Reddit videos.